Growing alfalfa is a niche for farmers and an excellent solution for irrigated land. It opens up great prospects for farmers in Kazakhstan. This is discussed in the country in the context of plans of the Ministry of Agriculture to expand irrigated areas. How is the business of dehydrated hay built? And what are Kazakhstan's chances of entering this market? Let's find out in today's episode. Several years ago, Kazakhstan announced ambitious plans to double the current area of irrigated land, from 1.5 million to 3 million hectares. But then there emerged the question of what to grow on this land. Otherwise, the already oversaturated market will collapse if potato production scales up. The Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed came up with a particularly interesting proposal. It suggests growing alfalfa and some other grasses, dry or granulate this feed and then export it. The global market for dehydrated hay is immense. It is now estimated at 10 million tons per year. However, it will expand, as many producing countries now abandon alfalfa cultivation as a result of water shortage. In many regions of Kazakhstan, on the contrary, there are no problems with water supply for irrigation. In eastern Kazakhstan, for instance, this is why alfalfa and other forage grasses can take their place in the crop rotation system of both new farms that start irrigation and those already running. To learn the specifics of alfalfa growing and drying technology, the Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed, together with the Austrian company Pöttinger, brought farmers from Kazakhstan and growers from bordering regions of Russia to Spain. Spain is the European leader in the dehydration of hay and one of the world's largest exporters. Farmers are visiting the fields here to see how alfalfa is grown, how the entire process chain is arranged from the field to the storehouse of ready-made artificially dried hay. Farmers get to meet the manufacturer of equipment for hay drying. This is a Spanish company, and its founder joins this tour. And we're here to see it and show it to you. "50% of the world's exports are dehydrated alfalfa hay. The remaining share is produced from fescue, timothy, Sudan grass, various types of ryegrass and other grasses. Protein content is one of the basic parameters determine the quality of feeds. Content higher than 22% is a premium product. Less than 16% is satisfactory quality. Alfalfa is especially good as besides protein, it also contains carotene, which is essential for the intensive growth of animals, and it also contains fiber. Alfalfa hay, including alfalfa pellets, is suitable for feeding all kinds of livestock. These are beef cattle, dairy cattle, small cattle, and poultry. Alfalfa is also beneficial for the farm, as it structures the soil and saturates it with nitrogen and organic residues, so its inclusion in the crop rotation system brings a double benefit. Today, there are more than 90 plants for the dehydration of alfalfa hay in Spain. That's what they call it on the market. Unfortunately, this business is underdeveloped in Russia and Kazakhstan. 2 years ago, we established the Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed to advance this industry, as its niche is actually huge. By various estimates, the deficit is from 1 to 3 million tons of product. Suppose, for example, China says that today its deficit is more than 1 million tons. It is one of the customers who are close by. We're making every effort to develop this area in Russia and Kazakhstan. Today, a ton of quality dry alfalfa hay costs $430 on average, which is higher than the cost of wheat and oilseed crops. The permissible moisture content of dry hay is 10 to 12%. The bale weight is 800 kg. If we speak about field drying, simply leaving grass under the sun prevents it from having the proper moisture content for baling, unlike an artificial drying. If the grass is undried, the whole bale will spoil, and if you overdry it, the quality vanishes, since the alfalfa will lose its leafy part and its basic nutritional properties with it. Another very important point is that artificially dried pressed hay has an unlimited shelf life, but this is if the storage conditions are observed, avoiding exposure to moisture. If you remember the events 2 years ago during the severe drought in southern and southwestern Kazakhstan, having a stockpile of forage would probably have eased the situation. Besides, it is restricted to export naturally dried hay from foot-and-mouth disease-affected regions to China. During the artificial drying process, though, the raw material is heat-treated, and there are no such restrictions for it. The USA dominates the exports of hay. It sells 5 million tons per year and thus accounts for half of the world market. Europe, Australia, Canada, and Argentina come after the USA. Japan, Taiwan, Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Lebanon are the main buyers. The demand from India, Israel, and South American countries is also growing. Spain is the world's #2 exporter of hay. Despite Spain's apparently hot climate, all companies use dehydration. It is an essential process to ensure consistent hay quality and its suitability for transportation. It is a huge market. Will it keep growing, what do you think? It is certainly growing. From year to year, it increases. Firstly, it is driven by the growing consumption of alfalfa in agricultural enterprises. Farms are growing, and accordingly, more intensive formulations are introduced, which include alfalfa. And now we observe a downward trend in alfalfa exports from Europe and from America, caused by the lack of moisture. This is an enormous disaster. We can say that this will boost our export volumes. The Mayak farm in Tyumen region of Russia is one of the farms looking to develop its artificially dried hay business. The company has a large dairy farm and cultivates 20,000 hectares of land. Mikhail, it seems that the natural and climatic conditions you work in are very similar to North Kazakhstan region. What is your view on alfalfa? Will it grow? And are there any prospects for exporting this crop? We grew alfalfa before, just for cattle feed. Now, having been introduced to the Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed, we have realized that there is tremendous potential for exports. These are primarily the countries of the Middle East and China. As of today, the market is not filled. So, of course, we're considering increasing alfalfa production using artificial drying technology, primarily to arrange export shipments and generate additional income. The preliminary survey has already been done, and we have done a soil analysis. We're considering an irrigation system to stabilize yields, to improve alfalfa yields. Thus, we expect to mow 3 cuttings in a season and about 8 to 9 tons of dried hay per hectare. This is the production volume. What are you planning to allocate for it? Irrigation is possible in about 5,000 hectares, as water is a finite resource. There's a fine area of fields. Yes, 5,000 is a good area. In Spain, we saw that the farms are much smaller. There are 500 hectares and 1,000 hectares. But nevertheless, 5,000 is a good starting point for such a project. Market prices and margins of this product today suggest that clearly alfalfa production, followed by drying and baling and deliveries to China, for example, should increase the margin per hectare of our existing crop rotation system by 2 to 2.5 times. Today's crop rotation system includes rye and third-grade wheat. We see that the current situation is… For grain, you mean? Yes, for grain, it is quite tough. Is alfalfa a good alternative? It is an excellent alternative, so we're strongly interested in implementing this project. Kazakh farmers are looking into this market too. In particular, the LMI farm, which operates in Abay region, is now considering acquiring equipment for artificial drying of hay. The company manages 85,000 hectares of farmland, of which 60,000 hectares is pasture and 25,000 hectares is arable land. Livestock farming is also active here, with a herd of Angus and Kazakh white-headed. Muhammadjan, in your perspective, is alfalfa production, hay drying, a promising business? Are there prospects for this business in Kazakhstan? Certainly it is. Given the current prices, the prospects for alfalfa cultivation and its further artificial drying are great. Why? Because firstly, given our conditions, our areas. You see, Spain ranks second in the world market for artificially dried alfalfa. Taking into account our areas, I suppose Kazakhstan does have a prospect. If this state helps us, without the state support, I doubt we will be able to do it. In other words, you need investment subsidies for machinery, specifically for drying equipment. As much as we know, there is none. There's for irrigation, there is for machinery, but not for drying equipment. It is a novelty for Kazakhstan. There are no such drying machines in Kazakhstan. Maybe you'll be the first to have such equipment. Maybe. Perhaps the Ministry of Agriculture of Kazakhstan should also dig into this matter, analyze it, and offer farmers some kind of state support so that this promising direction in our country could also be promoted. Today, farmers in Kazakhstan dry alfalfa in the old-fashioned way, in the sun. But in this way, the product quality is lost, and the protein level in the hay drops by 6 to 7%. How much land should a farmer have to get into this business? To generate income, to make this venture profitable? That's a good question. It can be approached in several ways. If we approach it as a separate investment project, the investor enters having no agricultural asset, he acquires it. The investor needs to buy agricultural machinery, build the enterprise, and start agricultural production. For such projects, a dryer with a capacity of 20 tons per hour is economically feasible. A land bank of 3,000 hectares is needed for alfalfa cultivation only, outside of the crop rotation system. Should it be irrigated? Alfalfa needs heat and moisture to grow. Accordingly, the soil and climatic conditions of Kazakhstan fit well with this framework. We have heat, we need water, and the alfalfa will grow magnificently. Back to your question about economic viability. For enterprises that are already engaged in agricultural production, that have livestock or crop production, that have a set of tillage equipment. Even low-capacity drying machines will be efficient for such companies. There are options for drying 7 tons per hour. For such an enterprise, some 500 to 700 hectares should be enough. That depends on the region. Alexander, speaking about Pöttinger, it is a partner of the Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed. Obviously, your product line has everything a farmer needs to grow alfalfa. Tell us what kind of farm machinery is needed, what specialized machinery is needed, and is it all present in the line? Yes, it is true that we're actively working with the association, convincing many investors today to get into this business, into alfalfa cultivation with artificial drying. Pöttinger does have a wide range of machinery needed for these projects. Let's talk about the entire process chain. We'll try to keep it short. What do we need? As with conventional crops, you need to prepare the field. To do this, there are all kinds of tillage equipment, from the most basic plows, disc harrows, and cultivators. We need to level the field thoroughly before we plant. This is because we're planning for at least 3 to 4 years of work. The field has to be 100% prepared, leveled. Then the planting is done. We recommend 12.5 centimeters row spacing for sowing. We use our seeding units. They're called Terrasam. Many farms have already tried them. Sergei Vladimirovich and I have planted thousands of hectares of grass. It is with specialized seeding complexes, which prepare the seedbed, compact, level, and put the seeds precisely at a preset depth. After sowing, we wait for the grass to grow. There are technological nuances. Agronomists know what to do in the field. Once the alfalfa is ready to be cut, the mowers go into the field. There are various mowers, but to ensure good performance, we recommend butterfly machines, triple mowers. It is a complex of a front mower and two toed implement combinations on the rear. Use a roller conditioner, not a beater one under any circumstances. The rollers ensure that the stalk is chopped so that it loses moisture as quickly as possible. After mowing, the forage is spread over the full width to lose any excess moisture, and then it is deposited in swaths. Poettinger recommends that this be done with swather belts. We check the machine's performance. We can double up, we can make 9 meter, 18 meter swaths. How are belt rakes different? They gently pick up the mass, place it on the belt and move it to the side. Our job is to pick this mass gently, so that we don't lose any leaves. We have a mass with say 50% moisture and any leaf can come off. And it is the leaf that contains all the protein. Exactly, we have to bring it here, all the way to the processing facility, all the way to the workshop, every single leaf we have collected. We have the swaths formed. Many farms use pickup trailers. And we have also seen them here. They pick up with no losses, collecting all the grass. There are cutters installed that chop the grass to a set size. On this farm, we have seen that 10 centimeters were set. We can set up for other sizes as well. Is it a ready-to-dry product? Is the length right? This is the right length. This is the product to put through a drum-type dryer. These trailers do more than just pick up and chop. The baling process runs there too. For example, a 54 cubic meter trailer fits about twice as much product as if we were just loading it from above, without baling. Farmers call these trailers carts. In a field near Saragossa, we meet Javier, a farmer who is operating this particular Poettinger machine. Javier says that for the first time in 8 years this season he repaired the cart, and only because he hit a big rock and damaged one of the components. So in the long run, a trailer like this could well work for a long time. In Kazakhstan, Poettinger machinery is in use in many regions of the country. We're present in Kazakhstan for a long time. There are advanced farms among our customers, with whom we share more than a decade of experience. We work shoulder to shoulder. There are forage harvesters and seeding machines. And when we talk about seeding, it is not only alfalfa we mean, but also other marginal crops such as flax, rapeseed. These are small seeded crops. This sowing complex also covers these crops. For the last 5 to 6 years, we have had more than a dozen machines come into the country, especially in North Kazakhstan region, Kostanay, Akmola. We have plenty of machinery working there. Sergey, how difficult is to grow alfalfa? What are the nuances? What regions of Kazakhstan are best suited for this crop? Like any other crop, alfalfa depends on following the technology. There's nothing too complicated, but at the same time, there are certain technological steps that have to be taken. Then the alfalfa will grow well and yield. As for Kazakhstan, alfalfa is suitable for cultivation almost everywhere in the country. Certainly in some regions, even in most of the regions, alfalfa has to be grown on irrigated land. For consistent quality, for consistent production, for consistent cuttings. Suppose in the north of the country, with no irrigation, we will have 2 cuttings, sometimes 3 if we're lucky, but in the south we can make 4 to 6 cuttings. What soil does this crop need and how is alfalfa fertilized? Basically, all soils in Kazakhstan are good for alfalfa cultivation, except high saline soil. Alfalfa doesn't like acidic soils. But there aren't any in Kazakhstan. Those are farther north, where there is abundant moisture. Moss grows in Siberia, Central Russia, and so on. Kazakhstan, by contrast, is closer to basic, alkaline soils, and there's soil salinization. What nutrients does alfalfa absorb from the soil and how can they be recovered? Primarily, alfalfa takes up the most demanding and biggest element, potassium. 300 to 350 kilograms of potassium. It needs to be replenished. 90 kilograms of phosphorus, and of course, nitrogen fertilizer is also needed, but only at the start. The most common mistake is applying nitrogen fertilizer to alfalfa during the vegetation period, which is only needed at the start. Next, the symbiotic nitrogen-fixing bacteria are in action, allowing alfalfa to receive nitrogen. Alfalfa is a good for crop as it leaves a lot of organic matter, root residue, in the soil. This increases the yield of succeeding crops by 15 to 20%, but it is not advisable to sow it in the same place for more than 4 consecutive years. There's plenty of misleading advertising claiming that you can grow alfalfa in the same field for 8 to 10 years. Surely it can be in the field, but its productive use is limited to 4 years. However, it can also be overused in a couple of years by breaking the technology. For example, KAMAZ trucks with narrow tires go into the field. We cannot allow this. There is a farm in which we see after 2 years that the soil is overcompacted, and the alfalfa no longer yields what it used to. If we pick up alfalfa in the field, it must be low-pressure tires, special trailers. Under no circumstances should vehicles with narrow tires be run into the alfalfa field. Which varieties of alfalfa are fit for Kazakhstan? Is there enough seed available? Where does a farmer buy seeds if he is interested in the crop? For example, our partner, the Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed, supplies French and Italian alfalfa varieties, including Timbale, Galaxy, Lucelle, and Paola. The association pays extra for these varieties when buying hay. Why? Because these seeds genetically form what is needed for dairy and meat production. It is a high protein content, the necessary structural fiber content. These varieties can deliver that. Today we visit the Molinas Afao plant. Luis Calvo, its co-owner and commercial director, bring us here. This facility is one of the 2 in Europe that produce hay drying plants. And this plant has the know-how and part of the equipment. Another company is also ordering equipment here. Those farmers who want to get into the drying of grass for the production of dehydrated hay should come here and make a contract. And they should come here as soon as possible, as the company is small and produces only 4 plants a year, customized to suit specific needs. In other words, they're not typical plants, but are designed for the capacity of a specific project. We started by doing small projects for feed producers. Eventually, we entered the hay and alfalfa sector. To do this kind of work, we partnered with world-class companies. This is how we achieved high-quality production of reliable and very efficient equipment. Luis says that while last year about 80% of the plant's production was exported, this year 4 of the 5 drying plants produced will be staying in the country. Markets follow trends. Depending on the country that is more active, the demand also changes. We send our products there. The majority of our products are represented in Spain, of course. Also in Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, France, and Estonia. A number of projects were completed for the USA and Canada. Poland is an important client of ours too. No clients from Kazakhstan yet? Not yet, no. But you expect them? We clearly see the development of Eastern Europe, Russia, and Kazakhstan, and head towards China. The Chinese market is a vast unexplored market. These regions have exceptionally good climatic conditions and the right soil quality. They are well suited to the cultivation of alfalfa. It should be kept in mind that raw grass can await drying at the plant site for no more than 24 hours. This is why quality equipment prepared to process raw materials quickly is the backbone of a business. Today, Malina Safao is already taking orders for 2025. In Kazakhstan and the rest of the CIS, Malina Safao is represented by the Association of Producers and Exporters of Hay and Feed. On our trip to Spain, we visited 3 plants: Iberalfa for Rajislana Guerra and Agro-Industrial Pascual Sanz. They all follow the same principle and use Malina Safao equipment. Let's take a closer look at the technology of artificially dried hay production. We're now at an artificially dried hay plant. It is near the Spanish city of Zaragoza. Zaragoza is the main region of the country for the production of artificially dried hay. The company cooperates with several dozen farmers who grow alfalfa for it. The crop covers around 2,000 hectares. The hay is cut from about mid-April until late October. During this time, farms do 5 or 6 cuttings. Straight from the field, the grass with a moisture content of about 30 to 40% is delivered to this site. Here it is immediately dried. The plant's capacity is around 14 tons of dry hay per hour. The heart of the artificially dried hay plant is an 18-meter long and 6-meter diameter drum. It is inside this drum that the grass is dried. Drying is performed with hot air blown in from the heater. And the heater can run on any kind of fuel. It can be gas, as here in Spain, or it can be electricity, or even coal. This plant's maintenance takes 2 months, once a year. Various consumables, such as conveyor belts, wheels, and bearings, are replaced. It costs 200,000 euros. Once the hay is dried, it has to be cooled before being packed. And this is the cooling line for the artificially dried hay. After that, it is packed and then sold. And this is the finished product. This is artificially dried alfalfa hay. It is not of the highest quality here at this plant. It is around 280 euros per ton. That's the price here at the plant, plus delivery to the port. At the port, the price will probably be about 100 euros higher. Shipping to China, for example, will cost another 100 euros on top. It is shipped in containers, so somewhere in China this ton of alfalfa will cost around 500 euros. Alfalfa can also be processed into another type of feed, pellets. This processing chain is similar to that for hay, only with an additional pelletizing line at the finish line. Pellets have a lower nutritional value as they are produced from low-quality raw materials, that is, too dry or leafless alfalfa. But pellets do have advantages. They can be used to feed poultry, whereas artificially dried hay bales are not suitable for poultry farming. They also cost slightly less than hay bales, but there is a good steady demand for them. Speaking about the market, about 75% of the demand is for hay and 25% for pellets. Besides that, maize flour can be added to the pellets to increase the energy value, or straw to increase the fiber content. The company Ferrages La Noguera, apart from artificially dried hay, also produces such pellets. The owner, Jaume Estrada, says that this year was unusually dry, which even with irrigation still affects grass yields. The double increase in the price of hay and feed pellets is the only benefit of the drought for producers. The company now sells 18 to 20% protein hay for 420 euros per ton. If we exclude the costs of raw materials and the cost of drying, the net profit per ton is 100 euros. Depending on the year and the yield, the factory may produce up to 70,000 tons of alfalfa. We also rent land, and there are farmers from whom we buy additional quantities of raw materials. The company owns 2,000 hectares of irrigated land. They grow alfalfa there and harvest 5 to 6 crops a year. That is from April until November. Additionally, they buy grass, alfalfa, here it is, from farmers. Around 80% of raw materials are brought here by farmers who work within 70 kilometers of the plant. It is transported in specialized trailers, fresh from the field. And 20% of the raw material is brought in from more distant farms in trucks. Spain has a warm climate, so the hay production season is long. According to Jordi Vilanova, production director at Iberalfa, alfalfa is grown and dried from April to December, and the equipment is often in operation 24 hours a day. And the winter break is used by farmers for maintenance. Our enterprise produces 60,000 tons of alfalfa during the year, and along with the Spanish market, we supply 12 other countries. We visit another artificially dried hay plant, Agroindustrial Pascual Sons. Its current capacity is 8 tons of dry hay per hour. But with good demand and a good price, the owner purchased equipment to double the plant's capacity to 15 tons of hay per hour. The plant uses liquefied natural gas. The plant's equipment allows not only to dry and bale alfalfa, but also to bale straw. And there is a demand for straw, as it is part of the ration of high-yielding cows. Alexey Komarovskih, the CEO of the A7 Agro company operating in Russia and Kazakhstan, says that a visit like this to Spain, with the opportunity to observe all the technological stages of production, is a much-needed and timely experience. For us, it is promising. We're present in the region. The Caspian logistics is interesting. We see our niche if we learn how to make a product with the same quality. For example, high-protein feed that can be sold. They will be in demand not only inside the country but also for export. So via the Caspian Sea it is possible to export. Middle East, right? Yes, it is perfectly possible. Markets in Iran, Saudi Arabia and others where soil fertility is low. But there is a lot of livestock. Yes, there is. They don't have enough water for irrigation. But we have these problems solvable. We have preferences. We have cheaper energy resources. Water, gas, and electricity are cheaper. This is our competitive advantage in these markets over our rivals. Sure, they have more experience and competence when it comes to livestock farming, but we're making every effort to fill that gap. That is why we came here to see it all. Depending on the energy source available to the farmer, producers in Kazakhstan can also build a drying plant powered by other fuels, such as coal or fuel pellets. Our only focus is to get 4 to 5 cuttings of this product at the right stage with proper harvesting, storage, and correct logistics to get the benefit of this business. Well, if there is water and sun, there will be the crop. The Novosibirsk Food Corporation decided to plant 400 hectares of alfalfa this year. Since the sunny season in the region is short, they expect only 3 cuttings per summer. This is the very first project we're doing. We want to develop alfalfa production in our company. Not just growing, but the entire technology of baling and pelletizing alfalfa. We plan to use pellets both for external markets and for our own use. Our company is not only involved in crop production, but also in livestock farming. We have cattle, a dairy herd. It is about 3,000 head. Our primary focus with alfalfa is on baling and also on pelletizing for our animals. We're also looking to use more than just alfalfa. We have more areas where we grow wheat and maize. We saw today that we can take silage from the pit, dry it at the very same drying plant, pelletize and press it. That's something new for us. No one has ever shown us this before. And no one has ever talked about it. We can also use this technology at our facilities. We have many silage pits and we feed animals all year round. The company intends to expand this area and allocate 5,200 hectares for the project. They are even prepared to grow grass on rain-fed areas. Will it be irrigated or there is enough moisture? No, there is plenty of moisture. Natural moisture. We don't plan irrigation for a start. There is enough of it. If all goes well, within 2 years, we will reach the target volume of 3,700 hectares of alfalfa per season. We will have the remaining 1,500 hectares under another crop, so that there is a transition for the soil to rest. This year we start planning, building, and ordering equipment. If we manage that all, we should start drying alfalfa next year. Where do you expect to export to? Same destination as the others, mainly China, also to Mongolia. Sergey, apparently the association will help to export the produce, but before exporting, one has to grow a crop. Will there be any assistance in agricultural processes or support for farmers who will start alfalfa growing? It is certainly a big deal because the quality of the finished product, its value, is created at the outset. I would say at the soil preparation phase. The choice of seeds is also an important point. We offer agronomic support. We have specialists. We assist in such key aspects as sowing and the start of harvesting. We go to the fields, study the nuances, and point out mistakes if there are any. We recommend the technology with regard to particular conditions to get a quality product. This is within our competence. In alfalfa growing, for example, row spacing plays an important role. It should be no more than 12.5 centimeters. If the row spacing is wider, it has a huge impact on, firstly, the yield. We have a higher plant density. Secondly, on the development of weeds in the inter-row area. Thirdly, on ash content. There is such a parameter. If the mowed plant touches the ground, it will therefore get sand and bacteria. And this is not good for the produce. Farmers often ask, how high should I cut the alfalfa? The answer is at least 8 centimeters. If we cut lower than 8 centimeters, like cereals, 4 to 6 centimeters, the alfalfa will have a side shoot by the time it is cut. We simply cut it off, which reduces the yield by 30%. In conditions of drought and an uneven field, we also increase the cutting height. It can be up to 12 centimeters. What will happen? There will be a better quality crop, more protein. The protein is in the stem, and the stem is the higher part of the plant. And the plant will grow back quicker. If we cut it all down in a drought, it will be hard for the plant to regenerate. If we save its lower green leaves, it will recover and grow back quickly. Production is merely the start of the business, and the point is to sell the product at a good price. Where will Kazakhstan producers of hay sell it? And will the association help them with that? Selling, of course, is an art, but selling a product which is in great demand and ensured supply is not difficult. To get a more attractive price, the association brings manufacturers together. We look for a higher value on the international market through high volume. We have a memorandum with China for the supply of 700,000 tons of alfalfa. This is a gigantic volume. But is China prepared to buy it? They are ready for even more. We are not yet ready to go and deliver that much. Arab countries, Iran, these are the countries logistically convenient for supplying hay from Kazakhstan. Colleagues, another field trip on the production of dehydrated hay comes to an end. This time we spent several days in Spain and showed farmers in Kazakhstan the production of hay. From the beginning, from the field, to making the final product and sending it for export. We do hope that in the near future Kazakhstan will increase its capacity and become #1 in the region and exporting hay to neighboring countries and beyond. We hope this trip proved productive and useful for all who took part in it, and those who watched the video gained the maximum benefit for themselves. See you in your fields.